Now, I did promise you, and I'm very excited about this, that we're doing a little bit of quizzing now. So if you, like myself, fancy yourself as a bit of a detective and you love where you live, listen up to my next guest now. Her name is Liz Foster. She's from Quiz Trail and lives in Ulcombe, creating history-based trails that take you all over the county. And a new one was launched just this weekend in Dover. Liz, it's lovely to talk to you this afternoon on
Good
BBC Radio Kent.
afternoon.
Very good afternoon to you.
Erica.
Please
Hi.
tell me how this all began for you.
Right, so we started, I suppose, really, it was just before lockdown. We started, we loved Rochester. I've always loved Rochester and knew
Beautiful
so
part
much
of the world.
about it. Absolutely, and so much history there. And kind of fancied writing a little history book, but I thought if we just write a history book, there's lots of history books already. So why don't we create a fun trail that takes you round and shows you the actual things that you're reading about and see where the people lived and what happened. So we created the Rochester one, and then lockdown came. I got furloughed for 6 months, so I just got addicted to researching Kent history with my daughters and exploring places in a different way, and that's it, really. And now we have 16 across Kent and 21 altogether, so we absolutely love them.
What a great
my
idea.
daughters are, they're 20s, so they sort of enjoy getting outside with me, and we have a good hunt around. We love it.
So are these walking tours? Is that how it started? People doing it on foot?
That's it, yes. So you kind of, we keep them to about 1 to 2 miles. We think nobody wants to be out there, walking miles.
Not a day like this when it's freezing cold. No, we don't.
Exactly. And then 1 to 2 hours is generally enough. Plenty of time, stop for something to eat, have a drink or something. And we've got adult questions in them, plus children, because when my children were growing up, they just sort of followed mum around stately homes and that sort of thing. So we make sure that the children are involved, and we get great feedback from families that they really, the kids really get involved and get a bit of a spark for history. So that's a side we're really pleased about, that side
brilliant
of it.
idea. So talk me, Rochester is where it began. You've started Dover this weekend. Where else have you got trails over Kent?
Right, so we've got quite a few. I'll just run through some, like Broadstairs around the top of sort of the Thanet area, Broadstairs, Ramsgate, Margate. Margate was fascinating history there. Along the top, we've got Herne Bay, Whitstable, Faversham. Oh, are you a Herne Bay?
I'm a Herne Bayer. Yep. As everyone who listens goes, don't get us starting about talking about Herne Bay again.
I love Herne Bay. Things like the clock towers. Now, that was given by a lady, Anne Thwaites, who used to holiday there, gave them the money to have the clock tower built, and then fell out with everybody, stormed out of Herne Bay, and they never saw her again.
Oh, what a shame.
And there sits her clock tower, the most marvellous thing that's there. So, and then we go sort of inland. We've got Canterbury. We go across to Sevenoaks, Royal Tunbridge Wells, where BBC Kent is based.
Yeah, where I'm sitting right now. Yeah, where it snowed.
Right.
It snowed half an hour ago. I'm not kidding you.
I did.
I'm not kidding.
saw
It proper
here some
snowed.
tweets.
Oh,
Yeah,
terrible.
amazing. We don't want that anymore. We want
we
warm
don't.
weather now. Get
Absolutely.
outside.
Yeah, you need it for your walks. You need it to stay nice and dry.
Absolutely. Yeah, get the families outside. Nice, healthy walk.
So tell me about how your daughters are involved in this. You mentioned a moment ago that they're, fully grown in their 20s. Are they still a big part of this? They must be so proud of you, Liz.
Oh, the three of us do it together, yeah. So we kind of, we have an idea, let's do that place next and research it. So we do lots of research, we go there, we visit. And what we're trying to do as well is to look at places that you wouldn't generally go on day-to-day visits. So, for example, Sandwich. I mean, I've been to Sandwich in the past, walked around the middle bit. Beautiful.
Yep, beautiful.
Absolutely. But to take people off those sort of main bits into little side streets and find out little bits that they might not have seen. Things, I mean, the living history around us is amazing. Things like boot scrapers, that's wonderful sort of memory that people had to wipe their feet, before they went in and out of properties. So all those sort of things we look for to point out around so that everybody can perhaps stop and imagine how it might have been in the old days. That's the side of it as well that I like to think, that when you see these lovely old properties, who lived in them, what went on, and who misbehaved.
Who lived in a house like this?
So, exactly.
I love the sound of you, Liz, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's fascinating what's on our doorstep if you look hard enough. So how can people get involved? If, for example, someone's listening in Dover and you've just launched this trail this weekend, how can people join in? Where can they find out where you're walking next?
So what we have is that they're sort of self-guided. So they buy the booklet, which is 24 pages, full colour, and it's full of history. And also the trail is within the booklet of sort of things to see.
I love this.
Yeah, so we do them on our website, which is www.quiztrail.co.uk.
I'm literally writing that down right now, because I'm going to buy a couple. I fancy Herne Bay, I fancy Canterbury. I love Canterbury. I love all those Broadstairs ones you mentioned on the coast, and there are, Sandwich again, as you just picked on, beautiful part of Kent. I've only been a couple of times, but literally felt like I was transported back to 1930 or something. It's absolutely stunning, but I don't know any of the history. So how difficult is it to find out the points when you're pulling a tour together? Say for Dover, for example, the one that you've launched this weekend.
Yeah.
How do you start? You've got, you want to do it. You've got an empty book. Where do you find out all those little bits and those little corners to take people to and to guide people to? How does it work?
Researching. I mean, the first thing we always do is we write the history before we go and spend a lot of time in a place, because I think the history then gives you the route. Once you sort of know that happened in that house and that happened in that building and that pub did that, you can kind of then think, right, we're going to go round that way, we're going to go down this little alleyway and that sort of thing. And you can bring the whole route together before you actually ever go there. And then once you go there, then, of course, it all opens up and there's way more there than we had. But we had some help in Dover. The Dover greeters were fantastic. We had lovely Denise and Liz. They helped us a lot with, filling us in. But it is sort of just researching and going back on old historical records and trying to find little court cases and things like that happened. That are out of the ordinary, little stories that people wouldn't necessarily know if you just walk around the middle, something that you think, I didn't know that there. So
love it.
That's what we were always aiming to find out. I think the routine sort of famous things about a place are quite known by everybody. It's the little quirky things we like to try and find out. It might be through being nosy, really, but...
I love it, Liz. I genuinely do. Did you touch on, in your Herne Bay trail, did you touch on the fact that we had a Brides in the Bath murderer from the turn of the century at the start of the 1900s?
Oh, that's in there.
Tell me the story. Tell me, for everyone else who doesn't know this, I love this about Herne Bay.
It's a terrible story. So the man had gone out, and of course no records were kept in those days on computers. So this chap had married this lady, and then married that lady, and married that lady, and he married poor Bessie in Herne Bay. And what he was doing was a day or two, they were obviously rich women that he was marrying, he wasn't wasting his time.
Of course, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it properly.
Exactly, you're going to get money off somebody. So, and he had Bessie, I think it's Bessie Mundy in Herne Bay, and 2 days, like the other brides, she ended up drowned in her bath by accident, was the claim he made. And then he had the cheek then to take the tin bath back to the shop in the high street and got a refund on it. Ooh. So then, and eventually what happened was, I think there was some suspicion about him, and his photo was put on the front of a newspaper, a national paper. Somebody picked up from another place and thought, oh, that's that man that such and such was married to. And it all got linked together. But he did say in court at the end, when he got convicted after, I think it was 22 minutes, the jury decided he was definitely guilty. He said, I'm not a murderer, I'm just a bit peculiar.
Yeah, I'm sure Bessie Mundy wouldn't have agreed with that, but
exactly.
I love these quirky things. Tell me about another fact about somewhere that you've just mentioned that you've got a tour on. Maybe from your Dover one that's launched this weekend. Tell me something about Dover, a little quirk I wouldn't know.
The lovely Dover ones, right. So we had in Dover, we've got all sorts of things. Simon Cowell went to school there at the Dover College.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And we've got George Eliot, the writer George Eliot. She went to stay there in the Southern Hotel, and she wrote Mill on the Floss, Middlemarch, and she was known by a pen name as George Eliot, but she was actually Mary Ann Evans. And she'd met a man in 1851 who was married, and he had an open marriage, which wouldn't have been the done thing back there. So
wouldn't be the done thing now, to be honest, if I were marrying someone, but there you go.
No, that's true. So they went off to Germany on their honeymoon and decided to make it their honeymoon, but they weren't married at all. And so she took his name, and they stayed in Dover for a while. So little things like that are really interesting, I think.
I'm going to end up buying all of these, aren't I? Because I love these little fascinating facts and things. Liz, I couldn't appreciate any more. Remind everybody of that website address where they can buy your Walking Tours books and then go on the tour themselves and learn all these fascinating facts, so they too can engage their friends, and when they have a dinner party, they can impress everybody, spurring out these facts. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. So we're at www.quiztrail.co.uk, and we keep them at $5.99, so they're a low-cost trip out for everybody. Everybody can share one copy, and we got £5 off if you buy 3 at the moment, so can't be bad.
I'm going to do that. You'll see my name pop up on your website when this show finishes at 6 o'clock, I guarantee. I've already got a list of a few that I want to buy, and one's for friends. What a nice gift if someone lives in one of those areas that you just mentioned. And
that's it.
Where else? I know you mentioned Broadstairs, Canterbury. You've got one in Herne Bay, Margate, Rochester. What other parts? Just to entice a few more customers in, so they go, oh, that's my area.
So we've got Westmoreland, Tenterden, so Whitstable, Westmoreland, Tenterden, Sevenoaks, Sandwich, Tunbridge Wells, Rochester, Ramsgate, Margate, Herne Bay, Folkestone, that's a nice one, Faversham, Deal and Warmer, Canterbury and Broadstairs and
Fantastic.
Dover.
Oh, bless you.
But they're all really, so interesting. Once you start, I get sort of, well, my daughters as well, we get sort of so involved then in the place, it's lovely.
I love it.
Very
Liz,
enjoyable.
you sound so much fun. Would you like to come back and be a guest with me on Friday afternoon when I do a show here on BBC Radio Kent?
Love to.
Excellent. That is in the diary, because you just sound like my kind of person through and through. And I love someone as excited about Kent as I am. Isn't that what it's all about? Finding those fascinating bits about where you live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, as I say, I look forward to speaking to you again, and we will make that happen, Liz. Please be my guest in the future. And if you love Liz as much as I do, and you want to buy one of those trails, if she mentioned your area there and you're thinking, I want to learn about where I live, all those bits that we pass every single day, day in, day out, you just scratch the surface and you go, I didn't know that. And
That's it.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you, Liz. It's been great fun talking to you. I'm going to play you a tune for you and your daughters. Do you want to give them a name check while you're on?
Yeah, Liz, Becky and Laura, that's the 3 of us.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great fun talking to Liz. I'll have to do the whole set now. You know that, don't you? Just for you guys and everyone who's excited about buying one of those books at quiztrail.co.uk.
Okay, that's it.
This is Baccarat. Yes, sir, I Can Boogie on BBC Radio
fantastic.
Kent. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Erika. Bye. Bye.